One of the sad facts of life is that everything eventually ends. And with TV shows, that's often more the case than many. I mean, there are some shows that manage to run the course of time, that eventually manage to get the ending that they deserve, and are eventually ended naturally, gracefully. And then there are some that never get the chance. But that's just a fact of life, and we all have to deal with it. But even when you find out that certain TV shows are ending, it doesn't necessarily make it that much easier. So, looking at my favourite TV shows list, I mean, to be honest, most of my list, I've got 8 favourite shows, right? Favourite kind of bases of shows, and I think around about 6 of them, or around about 5 at least, have all run their course of time. And there is one that I specifically wanted to talk about today, and that is the Arrowverse. Now, I know the Arrowverse isn't a TV show, it's a set of TV shows, it's the whole TV universe, but with recent happenings with the TV shows in question, I have reason to believe that it may soon be ending, or at least it may soon be coming to an end. And I will admit I'm a little bit sad about that, but at the same time, I have to wonder if maybe it is time. Maybe the TV landscape has moved on where just these shows, they had good time, and now it's time to move on to something new. Anyway, for those who don't know, I'll give you a little rundown of the overall universe. In 2012, after the 10-year run of Smallville, everyone was wondering what the next kind of big Warner Brothers DC TV show was going to be. And in 2012, along came Arrow. Arrow was a show that focused on the life of superhero Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow. He ends up lost on an island, and it shows what happens after he gets back to civilization, having been a changed man in the 5 years he was gone. It starred a pretty good cast, along with Stephen Amell, David Ramsey, and Emily Bett Rickards, and over time did add more cast members, including the likes of Rick Gonzalez, Kate Cassidy, Willa Holland, and so on and so forth. And it showed the exploits of the Green Arrow in Star City. Now, after the first year, and seeing that the show was a hit, for a kind of brief crossover episode of such, they introduced the character of Barry Allen, played by Grant Gustin. And they showed him interacting with Oliver Queen, and then at the end of a 3-episode arc where they had him in, they hinted that he was about to go through the change that would turn him into the Flash. And while it was assumed at the time that this was just going to be like a 1-episode thing, like we'd see him as the Flash for an episode and then maybe pop up here or there, the idea quickly gained traction, and the CW decided to spin off the Flash into his own TV show. And once again, that did prove to be a hit. You had a new TV show, The Flash, with Grant Gustin, and a stable cast that also included the likes of Carlos Valdes, Daniel Panabaker, Tom Kavanagh, Jesse L. Martin, and Candice Patton, along with a host of others, and rolling in and out throughout the seasons, including the likes of Tom Felton, Teddy Sears, and so on and so forth. Once again, the show proved to be a hit, and they kept going. Now, when The Flash was entering its 2nd season, and The Arrow was entering its 3rd, they decided once again to expand. So in 2015, they announced they would do a new show titled Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow would take various minor cast members from each of the 2 shows and mash them up together into a team that would go travelling through time in order to visit certain historical events and set things right that were going wrong. Once again, they did it very well. They had a great cast, including Katie Lotz, Victor Garber, and honestly, there was a ton of them. And it was implied that more would come in and change over time. Certain characters would be written out as time went on, and others would be added to the cast. And I think it is fair to say that Legends of Tomorrow was a ton of fun. But around the same time, CBS decided they wanted to get in on the action, so they announced Supergirl. This would be a series focusing on the cousin of Clark Kent, Kara Danvers, as she makes her way in National City and discovers her own powers. And for that, they had they cast Melissa Benoist as Supergirl. Now, for the first season that Supergirl was on the air, she did well enough. She did a crossover episode with The Flash, and things seemed to be going well. However, after one season, it was clear that the numbers weren't quite as high as CBS were hoping for. So rather than cancel the show outright, they elected to simply sell the rights to the show to the CW, who would then be able to incorporate Supergirl into their expanding universe and do a lot more with her. Which they did, and Supergirl would subsequently join up with the Arrowverse heroes for at least one crossover event per year, along with her own series, which she did in the first of the big crossover events, Invasion, in 2016. Anyway, things were going well with that, and the Arrowverse would also expand with kind of online animated web series based on the characters of Vixen and the Freedom Fighters character, the Ray, following the crossover event Crisis on Earth X. Meanwhile, they would also expand themselves some more with Batwoman, who I believe came along in 2018, starring Ruby Rose and later Jaricia Leslie. A new character would join the overall universe with Black Lightning, who at first started out with his own TV show completely separate from the Arrowverse, and then was later written in with Crisis on Infinite Earths. And basically, they went on, adding more and more characters, and even a spin-off based on Tyler Hoechlin's Superman and his wife Lois Lane, played by Elizabeth Tulloch. However, in 2019, it was announced that after a shortened 8th season, Arrow would wrap up, which kind of felt right at the time. Arrow had been the parent show that had started all of this. They'd had a good run, and now they wanted to kind of wrap things up, and that felt right. So following the event Crisis on Infinite Earths, Oliver Queen was laid to rest, and it felt very much like the torch was being passed on to the other shows to carry on the legacy. Now, then of course COVID happened, and like with most of the other TV industry, they had to put production on hold for a while, but eventually they got back into full swing, made some more episodes, and things seemed to be going on. Then Supergirl was announced. It was announced that Supergirl would be ending after the finale of the 6th season, which I felt was sad, because Supergirl I felt was a good show, and I did feel they had more longevity to go for it, but with the ending that they wrote, with Kat revealing Supergirl's secret identity and broadcasting her interview to the world, it left it open for Supergirl to return for crossover events if they so chose. So, while it was sad to see Kara go, they did leave things open for her to still be able to return. Then, following the 4th season, it was announced Black Lightning would be ending, which I'll admit I was a latecomer with Black Lightning, so when it was announced that they were ending it after the 4th season, I wasn't entirely caught up, and I was like, okay, fair enough. It wasn't my favourite, but I did enjoy the show. And then recently I looked up the other Arrowverse shows and found that after recently concluding the 7th season, which ended on something of a cliffhanger, it was announced that the 7th season would actually be the last one of Legends of Tomorrow, which I do feel is a real shame, because Legends of Tomorrow had such a wacky concept that I felt they could have gone on for many more years, but they ultimately decided after season 7, which saw them get arrested by time bandits and meeting Booster Gold, that they would ultimately be wrapping up, which I do feel is a shame. And after having looked it up, also they're ending Batwoman after the 3rd season ended, which is another one that I'm a little confused by, because I honestly thought Batwoman, as one of the newer shows, had the potential to go really far, but evidently they didn't feel that way, and so they cancelled Batwoman following the 3rd season. Now that effectively leaves us with 2 Arrowverse shows left, one of those being The Flash, who's currently in the middle of his 8th season, and has already been renewed for a 9th, and the other being Superman and Lois, currently in the middle of their 2nd season, and have already been confirmed for a 3rd. Now, there are other DC Comics shows broadcast on the CW, such as Titans, Doom Patrol, and Stargirl, but in terms of the original continuity, The Flash and Superman Lois are the only ones left, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they decide after season 9 to lay The Flash to rest. Because while The Flash is, I think, my favourite show out of all the Arrowverse shows, I do feel that, like with Arrow, The Flash originally had an end date written into its original storylines, that the newspaper article in The Vault, which showed Barry disappearing after the crisis. However, like Arrow, they eventually managed to move past that and kept going for a little bit more. And by the time season 9 comes out, that'll have been 4 years past the event. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if by that point they say, yeah, we pushed this about as far as we can go. And they are actors. They may want to move on to other things. I mean, Grant Gustin may finally want to move on to something else without red spandex. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, there are a whole load more new DC shows due to hit the slate. I mean, they even managed to bring in characters like John Constantine, who originally started on NBC, but then was transferred over here, and also a brief appearance by Tom Ellis's Lucifer, which worked out well. So, it doesn't necessarily make it any easier when you know that one of your favourite shows is due to end, but I feel that with all the other shows in the Arrowverse effectively now being cancelled, except for 2, I can, I think, prepare for when one of my favourite TV universes finally goes off the air. And all in all, we'll still have means in order to rewatch what we loved about them. Still have streaming services, still have DVDs, still have clips. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say they have potential for 1, maybe 2, or possibly 3 more years, but I'd say pretty soon the Arrowverse may soon be ending. And it's still one of my favourites. I absolutely love that particular TV universe. So there you go, that's my quick thoughts on how the Arrowverse may soon be ending. Sad, but we'll have to move on at some point. And until next time, see ya.